Hi, Liz. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, John. It's very nice to be here. Very nice to see you. And I'm so glad that you invited me to be on your show.
It's so nice to have you on here. I was looking at a couple of your books we're going to be talking about. But before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, some backstory, so we get to know you a little bit better.
Okay. Well, there's probably quite a backstory, but I won't go into all of it. Um, I had two careers, actually. I worked for a little company that I'm sure you've heard of, Sears Roebuck and Company, for 20 years. And then I decided to become a nurse. So I went to school and became an RN. This was while my children were growing up. And I was an RN for 25 years. Um, my husband and I decided to move to the coastal, beautiful beaches of North Carolina. Retired in 2016 from nursing and played golf, played mahjong, did all the usual things a retiree would do. I volunteered quite a bit too. I volunteered before I even retired with the Arts Council here in the county I live in. I was a secretary for over 7 years. I learned a lot and met a lot of great people, especially in the arts. Wonderful people. The reason I started writing, I came down with in 2020, nothing to do with the pandemic, came down with something called burning mouth syndrome.
I read about that. I heard you say that. What is
Rarely
that?
people,
Sounds
very few
horrible.
people have ever heard of it.
What is that?
Your mouth burns all the time. It literally is on fire all the time. It's like if you eat something very spicy, Mexican food or
Yeah.
something. Usually, if you eat it, digest it, it goes right away. Um, I don't have to eat that for my mouth to burn. I literally woke up one day and it was there. It's primary. There's two kinds, primary and secondary. Some people get it, and I really hate to say this, but the secondary part of it, people get when they can get it from things like dental procedures, radiation, maybe, for cancer or something like that. And usually that will go away. But the primary, which is what the doctors have determined I have, is it's nerve related. It probably won't go away in my lifetime. They like to give you hope that it will. I don't anticipate it ever going away, but I do take medication. I have a wonderful doctor that's taking care of me, and he works with me, and we just try different things. Um, it's about 50%, better, probably as good as I'm ever going to get it, but I do have to use mints. This is my saving grace.
Oh,
And just use mints. And now, some people say it comes from dry mouth. Many people have dry mouth just from medications that they take.
right.
So who knows?
Well,
But the reason I started writing, actually, I didn't start until 2022. I always felt like I had a book, had something, I've had so many life experiences, as we all have. And it was kind of just a diversion. It started out as a diversion, and the more I did it, the more I liked it. And that's kind of, but once you get past that part of it, the part that you love when you're creating and writing, then you get into the nitty gritty of it. Oh, well, if I want to publish this, I got to figure out how to do it. And that's the big learning curve that
that's a
people
big
don't
learning curve
realize
for all
until
of
they
us. Yeah, absolutely.
so that was a big, but I love challenges.
Hmm.
Um, it opened my eyes to how hard writers work, just tremendous. Um, I kind of knew just early on that I probably wasn't going to get a literary agent. That's just a dream, a lot of people don't. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Um, so I looked into the hybrid. uh, your publishing kind of thing.
Right.
And I met several good authors, that, and I do go to a lot of book readings and things like that here in the community. I like to definitely support indie, I call them indie authors. That's what
Right.
their self-published authors are called. And my website, I have usually one of my pages on my website I dedicate to books done by indie authors, primarily ones that live around, where I live.
Cool.
And I just kind of grew from there, learned from there. Um, it just The writing process is my favorite part. However, now I'm in the marketing phase and, having to get out there and finding more success actually from going to festivals, book festivals, things like that. Um, Trying to sell on Amazon, it's not impossible, but it's just difficult because
It
there's
is.
especially in the genre I write in, which is mystery, so many. It's just very oversaturated. And they're
Oh, for
good
sure.
books. Don't get me wrong. I'll read a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's just very oversaturated.
Yeah,
So
for sure. And with some of the interviews I've had recently with people, they mentioned that they're competing, especially the children's book writers, are competing with people who write books using AI. That seems to be a thing now, not just in books, but in our
it's
culture.
scary.
It's
Mhm.
it's it's scary because it's kind of confusing. You don't know what's real anymore, and it was bad enough before, but now with AI, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it's confusing.
Um,
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos. I've learned a lot from them. I've also, I've got a couple of sites that I follow, subscribe to, and keep up with those. But yeah, AI is really beginning to mess with people
Yeah.
quite.
Yeah.
I use Grammarly. I'm gonna admit it.
Sure.
It's a good tool to make sure you get the right commas, and make sure you don't miss something. And it can also help you just generally in crafting, make sure you don't duplicate something, an
Sure.
idea or something like that. But I try not to, try to be very discretionary, I guess,
Yeah.
toward, what I use from it.
Yeah. And of course, then afterwards you send it out to an editor since you're using a hybrid
I
publisher.
did my first book. I had an editor right off the bat. I had to have an editor. I didn't even know, be honest with you, I didn't even know about Grammarly then.
Hmm.
My first book definitely had an editor. Um, to be honest with you, I was a little disappointed in the editing process. Not that she wasn't good, she was. Um, but I felt like it took away my personality from it. Um, my second book, um, I did not use an editor. I had beta readers.
Hmm.
I wish I had probably used a proofreader. That would have helped. But so I did have a little more difficulty with it. But it was that my first two books, well, I say that because I do have a third one coming out. But the first two are written in a past tense and then present tense, past tense, present tense. So I kind of go back a ways and then bring, the real present day forward, what's happening. So it can get um, a little confusing in that way, not to me. And now that I've kind of rewritten a little bit of it, I think it's a little flows better.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of what I write about. My second book is the book that I really wanted to write from the beginning. That was the one that I was most interested in. I've always followed true crime, forensic files, any of that. And my second book is based on a person that actually went missing in the city that I grew up in, which is Atlanta, Georgia. You might hear a little Southern accent there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I lost some of it when I lived in Ohio,
Mhm.
but, a true murder, well, they don't know that it was a murder, but a missing person, um, when I was 15 years old, and I never forgot it. It was just such a strange case, and it was um, happened in a very nice area, a brand new shopping center that had just opened there. It was a very strange case, and I never forgot about it. And then I started researching it. I found it on a podcast, and then I started listening to this podcast, and the people that disappear all over this country is
Yeah. It is
amazing,
amazing, yeah. Quite something.
and
Yeah.
many of them are never found. Never ever found.
It
So
is a
that
mystery.
intrigued me.
Me too.
Usually what you find on forensic files, they have a case, they've got a body, and they usually find, the perpetrator. So listening to all these podcasts about missing people
Mhm.
and that they never find, it was just, unbelievable.
Yeah.
And, Going West is the one that I landed on at that time. That's a very good podcast for that. Now I listen to even another one. It's called Murder with My Husband. Sounds like a crazy title, but it's a
Mhm.
very interesting one too. But they're very sensitive to the victim. These victims, they need a voice and they try to give it to them. It's just it's a tragic situation.
Yeah, it is.
So in any case, that's why I wrote my first book mainly because I live here in North Carolina. I wanted to write about the area that I lived, and I wanted my protagonist to be living here where I live.
Okay.
She's nothing like me, except that she was an RN. Um,
But she's a
but
bit
that's
like
how
you. I
I
mean, when we write about characters, a little bit of ourselves is in the character, especially the
absolutely
protagonist, you know.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah, cool.
And, so that's how I did that. I wanted to introduce the characters to myself and to the public or, to my readers. And then I wrote my second book. And my second book, basically took a case that, like I say, the case of the woman that went missing in Atlanta, Georgia, and I turned it into what I hoped happened to her.
Okay.
I don't think it did, but I
Right.
turned it that's the way
So
I look at
so it
it.
remains a fiction, and even though you're
It's
inspired
a fiction.
by
I
the
call it historical fiction
cool.
because I do use the scenery, and I look that up as long as it's so many years ago,
Yeah.
and that kind of thing, and it's based in a real place.
Okay.
Um, so I used a lot of things out of Atlanta that I grew up with in the book. Um, so
Okay. Well, so your genre that you like to write, and you're going to continue writing in, as these kind of mysteries, these little cozy
disappearing,
mysteries, as you
yeah,
refer to them.
disappearances mainly.
Right, right. Ever been tempted to write a memoir? People our age, they seem to want to do that, and more
It's
people.
funny you say that. It's
Yeah.
funny you say that. My brother and I were debating about doing something like that. I tried to talk him into doing it, and he said, "No, no, no, I'll help you, but you have to do it."
Hmm.
I've kind of thought about it. Not maybe not so much a memoir, but about people in my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I always think that memoirs work best if you're famous and people know you and
right,
want to know like what you've done because they've heard of you.
right.
We all have memoirs anyway, right? We all have a
We
private
do.
life, so
We all have our own story.
and we think it's so interesting until someone else hears about it and go, okay,
That's right.
yeah. Well, let's get right to it. What is the name of your first book?
My first book is named A Measure of Kindness. That title came to me. We were going through the pandemic, we were still in the pandemic, started in 2020, and here I came down with this wonderful burning mouth syndrome, didn't know what it was or how to treat it or what to do. By this time I had some treatment for it, but it wasn't working well. Um, And I guess I just felt like I need a little kindness in my life. And I hope that other people needed it and, and would give it. It's one of those pay it forward kind of things. So that's how I ended up with the title of my first book, but it is based on my protagonist who moves from New York City to the beaches of North Carolina and then gets involved in a true, well, I'll say true to her, murder mystery of a nursing student that went missing when she was in nursing school 30 years before.
Mm,
So
okay.
that's how that started, and then all the characters. I love to develop the characters, and some of the characters in there are based on people that I know.
I'm looking at the cover. Looks like snow. Is that snow or is that sand? That's a sand.
Beach,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's like the shores of North Carolina, I suppose.
It kind of does.
Mm.
Yes, it's a beautiful sunset or sunrise,
Where'd you get
sunset.
that picture from?
It actually, I had a book cover designer and we
Mm,
found the picture online,
okay.
but she did that for me. So
Hmm. It's nice. Measure of kindness. It doesn't make me think murder mystery, so it's
no,
yeah, it's
you're
kind of
absolutely right. And it's funny you say that because on Amazon for a while there, I don't, it's not so much anymore, but for a while there, it was being put under the children's section.
hmm,
And I couldn't figure that out. I called them about it and they said, well, they really didn't have an explanation. It's finally gotten away from there for some reason. Maybe I did change some keywords at one point. I used measure because Allie was a nurse. I'm a
okay.
nurse. I was a nurse. So we measure, nurses measure out everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes you give just some kindness, a little kindness, a lot of kindness, and that's kind of where I came up with the word. But there's people in there that pass on a lot of kindness,
Hmm.
and it it all comes full circle. Let's put
Right.
it that way.
Well, in our pre-chat, we spoke
Hmm.
briefly about writing styles and what both of us agreed, and in our writing styles,
Hmm.
we have a hard time describing, graphic violence. And I suppose we didn't talk about it, but I suppose language as well. So when you're writing a murder mystery, do you find it difficult to work around that? Because it is about, violence, and sometimes people
Right,
who do violence
right.
have a certain way of speaking that maybe not you and I speak like that, and yet,
Right. I don't
mhm,
like to use violent words. I
yeah,
don't I just I just don't like to do that. So,
yeah, I haven't done one.
my second book might have one, but nothing real bad.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I might have a throw in a hell or something
Yeah,
like that here and there, but nothing worse than that.
sure. Yeah, that's interesting. Great. So these books are okay for teenagers to read, and
Um, I would say no, I
no,
would say young adults
okay,
and mature adults.
all right,
Because there's some romance and everything in it, just as in real life. So there's really, especially my second book, I wouldn't say that that's really for a young teenager.
okay, all right,
So
cool. So let's talk about that second book. What's it called?
that is called A Lie More Real Than Truth. And I know that's a long title, but that also just came to me one day. I had my uh, partner over here that she's kind of, we call ourselves partner in crime. She's a writer as well. We were just sitting there one day floating ideas, and it just came to me. This woman that I hoped was not missing all these years, but she had to live a lie. She lived a lie for many, many years, and that's where the title came from.
Yeah.
Because to her, the lie was more real than the truth that she had experienced early on in her life.
Hmm. Sometimes when I have a conversation with an author and I ask them about their book, and then they speak for about 25 or 30 minutes, explaining every detail of that book. And I'm thinking, when you're writing mysteries like this, you don't want to tell me everything about the book, right? And
Yeah,
yet we're here talking about your book, so don't get
yeah.
complicated.
I
let's
could tell you a little bit about the second book is, a friend in the first book. The second book is based on that friend's husband's aunt. So they go together.
there's a
You don't
connection
have
there.
to read one and then read the other. You could they're standalone books.
Okay, good.
However, they do uh, gel at some
Nice.
point.
And is that something
So
you're planning on doing so that there's a connective tissue
I
between?
do.
Yeah,
My third book
cool.
is called Saving Lisa. Hoping to get that out before I go on my trip in a
Hmm.
couple of weeks. I'm running close on it. Whether or not I'll get it out or not, I'm not sure. But it's called Saving Lisa. And it was a difficult book to write. I started it back before Christmas, just kind of outlining and coming up with the theme of it. Um, it's about a an abduction of a 13-year-old for reasons for human trafficking,
Mm,
sex trafficking.
yeah,
So it was a difficult book to read,
for sure.
but it does have a good ending.
Yeah, well, that's good. It's always good to have a good ending. And I,
Yeah.
yeah, not much of a Kafkaist person myself.
Well, I wanted to, spread a little bit. I do also keep up with on LinkedIn. There's a I can't think of the name of the woman right now, but she kind of keeps up with, things that are going on with human trafficking, children being trafficked and this kind of thing. So that's a little bit of the impetus of why I decided on that subject. Um, I did I did, like probably a lot of authors do. I was going one way and then I changed it and decided to go another way because it just felt better.
Yeah, that does happen.
Yeah, I'm a panster.
Are you? Oh,
I'm not a planner.
wow.
Uh,
I
um,
meet so few of you.
yeah, I actually it was really funny. About a year or so ago, I happened to be on YouTube and I came across an interview that Stephen King did many years ago. I believe it was at a college up maybe in Harvard or one of the colleges up in Boston.
Hmm.
And he described that that's how he wrote as
Oh,
well.
wild.
And I thought, wow, okay. He said he doesn't want to know the ending before, when he's still writing it, he doesn't
That's
want to know the
wild.
ending. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel that same way. However, I usually know what my ending's going to be. I just have to get there
Yeah.
during the process of writing.
Yeah. I
So,
equate everything back to music. You probably noticed that I'm a musician
mm-hmm,
here.
mm-hmm,
So I'm a studio guy, and everything has to, I don't care how many takes it takes until I get it just right. And then when I was an
right.
editor in post-production, in darkened room, we just go at it until we do it. I only did a couple of live events in my career, and it drove me nuts because I don't know what's going to happen next. It's live.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's a whole different world. And I equate that to being what you are or being what I am. I need an
mm-hmm.
outline. I need a synopsis. I can work up to 3 months just writing the synopsis before I even start.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
very important to me. Yeah,
Wow.
we're different.
Well, you're probably much better at doing this than I am.
Oh, I don't know about that. Now these
Well,
books are,
I wrote a lot of nursing
oh,
plans and that kind of thing
yeah.
when I was nursing, we always had to do that. But yeah, I guess as I retired, I'm a little more loosey. I don't know.
Well, the last 12 years of my career, I worked on reality television shows, the low quality ones where
Yeah,
not like say Survivor, which is like scripted and
right,
they know what's
right.
going to happen and all that.
Uh-huh.
But really cheap things like people buy a house and then renovate it and sell it to make money or something.
Oh, interesting.
And those shows, uh, there's not much planning that goes into it. And the participants themselves are awkward generally. They don't talk well. They don't say the things
Really.
we want them to say. And then we get this bunch of stuff, and then we have to make a story out of it. and then we do, and we send it off to the executives, and the executive says, "I don't like the story. Make it this story. Turn it into this."
Mm,
And we look at the footage. Yeah, but that's not what's happening. And then I have to do magic and miracles to make.
is that right?
Yeah, so
That's funny.
drove me crazy in the beginning, but I got good at it. And so when I sat down
Yeah.
and wrote books, okay, I can do anything now, I guess. I did that. I could do anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must be very creative.
I have been. I'm glad to be retired from that industry, though. A lot of stress, but
Yeah,
it gave
I
me a
can
lot, gave
imagine.
me some good transferable skills to do other things as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Good.
So your books, are they novels or novellas? How would you describe them?
I would describe them as novels, but I know what you mean by the novellas. I've kind of looked into maybe doing a novella just to see how it goes.
What's the word count on a novella? I think under 50,000 words or
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm not sure I can, you really have to condense a lot to get less than 50,000 words. But that's really, I mean, I usually come in somewhere around 65, 67 words, 1,000 words.
Sure.
Um, so I guess it's possible.
Oh, yeah.
I just don't know how well they really do.
So when you submitted your first book to an editor, what was the reaction? Did they tell you that it's a little too long and has to be cut down?
No, no, but they had to do a lot of work on it. They
Yeah.
had to do a lot of work on it. So the writing process was really, really, it's just eye-opening.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot from my editor, whole lot.
Hmm.
So I know what to look for.
All right. You have a family, children,
I
grandchildren?
do. I
Yeah.
do. I have
Yeah.
a husband. I have a daughter. I have two grandsons. One who went into the Marines last year. Very proud of him. I have a son who is a police officer.
And what do they think of their mother being an author now?
I wish my children were better readers. My daughter has started reading the first book. She wants me to likes to listen to Audible. She doesn't understand
Yeah.
that to get a book on Audible is not cheap, very expensive, unless you want to read it yourself and all that. Now you can do AI Audible now on Amazon.
No, you can, but you can tell. You can tell that's not a person.
Yeah.
And there's
A
no
friend of
warmth. There's no
mine,
warmth there, in my opinion.
right. Well, a friend of mine actually told me she had a bad experience with that. She had 6 books and she put them all on Audible per the AI on Amazon. And then when they published, it showed that all of her books were AI, her books as well
Oh,
as the
okay.
Audible.
Yeah.
So I don't know if something she immediately took them all down, took all the Audible down, because it scared her, and I guess she called them or something.
Yeah. What
I'm
about
not sure.
ebooks? Do you have ebook versions of your books?
I do.
Okay.
Mhm. I bought both of them are on ebook. The third one I'm going to try just doing the paperback only.
Hmm.
I'm finding that people buy paperbacks
Yeah.
more than they do the ebooks, even
Well,
though
I
the
do.
ebooks are so much cheaper.
Yeah. However, with the ebooks, and I don't have any ebook versions of my books because I don't do ebooks and I didn't think that that's a big thing. Turns out it can be because you get paid by the page. Now, okay, it's a
Mhm.
fraction of a cent, but if somebody only reads the first 15 pages of your book, you get something for it.
Right, right. Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course,
I
we're not
understand
doing this for
that.
money. I get that, but it was an
Yeah,
eye opener. Yeah.
right, right. So I thought I would just try it with the third book, just do the paperback only,
Hmm.
and then we'll see what happens. But like I say, I found that more people buy the real book, and then you have to pay the formatting. You still have to pay for on the ebook, you know.
Yeah, that's a little
So,
complicated, but if you have the patience, and there's a lot of YouTube videos showing how to do that stuff, and
oh, I can't do it. I
yeah,
I actually use a company to do all my formatting for me. God, too much for me.
I guess I'm technically minded, so I can
Yeah,
I can learn these things, and besides, I can't
yeah.
afford anything. I don't have the money, so I just end up doing it myself.
I wish I could. I know because it can get expensive.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Editing's not for everybody either. I hear that a lot of podcasters they farm out their editing to someone else. Well, maybe I should consider being that person to have editing farmed out too. Maybe I can make a little money doing that because I love
Yeah,
editing. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
So, do you have a website?
I do. BoyersBookshelf.com is my website,
Okay.
and I just did all that myself too. And I do have it's amazing. I do get a few hits on it, and I guess it's just because I don't think people are necessarily looking for. I think they're just come across it somehow. But every week, if I don't check it weekly, but every week if I do go on, I see that I've had some traffic on it. I don't sell books on it though. I did start finally newsletter sign up for it. So, we'll see how that goes. I'm not a big newsletter person. Personally, I don't like getting them, and I really don't want to do them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do want to be retired a little bit too. So this is a yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, I'm hoping, John, that while I'm in Italy, that something will occur to me that maybe I can make a book out of it. They do. They certainly do. Yeah. I'm hoping so. Mhm. She is the common thread, but she also works for a catering company that, people in that she meets through the catering company. That's what she had to get a job when she moved to North Carolina. She had lost her license, or she had lost her job, let's put it that way, in New York, because she refused to take the vaccine. And so I wrote about that. I I did get the vaccine at my age, it was definitely recommended. But she's much younger than I am, my protagonist is. So she has a job working for a catering company. We have a lot of catering companies down here. This is a this area is retired people, and they just have it's a destination wedding area. So yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. It is beautiful, beautiful beaches down here. Oh, I think she could because she has a boyfriend who is gonna probably end up being her fiance by the next book at least. Not the one coming out currently, but the one after that. Um, and there could always be a honeymoon in Italy. He's a doctor, an anesthesiologist, and I worked with a lot of anesthesiologists, so I kind of know them a little bit. Um, so that's why I made him an anesthesiologist that she happened to meet while on the beach walking. And so they're good people. I like to write about people that, like me, we all have warts, we all have baggage, we all have, things in our lives that maybe we're not proud of, but we're still good people, and like to do for others, the way we would like people to treat us. I have a very strong belief in God. I go to church. I participate in my church. Uh, Still volunteer in my church all the time. So we've got a great community here. You'll have to come down and visit sometime. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I I'll be glad to. Um, I wrote my books the way I like to actually read books, the kind of books that I like to read, regarding a little suspense, a little romance. Um, Missing persons is a very passionate um, thing that I have gotten interested in, more and more interested in, and I like to have a happy ending. Not all of them do have a happy ending, but I like to. I think you would enjoy reading a cozy mystery, something that has a little bit of everything in it, especially if you're familiar with the area that I live in the Carolinas. And I just hope that you'll consider buying them. Okay. I enjoyed it very much. Been a pleasure talking with you. I will be glad to, and I would love to be back on. I like to watch your all your videos. Thank you. Take care. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then please consider hitting that like button and leaving a comment. You could also subscribe and ring that bell because I release 2 episodes per week, one on Wednesdays and one on Saturdays. And if you are an author, I would love to hear from you. Until such time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.